What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another live episode of Charm City Heavyweights Podcast, brought to you by Great 8 Sports Memorabilia in Parkville, Maryland. I'm the host, Matt Trigger. With me is my co-host, as always, Josh Merrill. What's going on?
What's up, Matt? Coming live from the man cave. I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be a fun one. We got our special guest coming on, former Baltimore Ravens quarterback from the early 2000s era. Anthony Wright is joining us live tonight. Anthony, welcome to the show, man. What's going on? How you doing, Anthony?
He's fixing his sound, I think.
Yeah, I think he's fixing his sound. Can you hear us? There we go. You good? His sounds are gone.
Yeah,
all right. Is it?
Yeah, he'll reboot it.
Can you hear us?
He hears us. We can't hear him.
Yeah, we can't hear him. All right. Yeah, I love live episodes. Hopefully there's everything getting straightened away.
It happens.
Anthony, if you can hear us, try coming out and coming back in. Okay. Anthony will be right back with us. Just a little bit of a technical difficulty. We are going to be talking with Anthony about his time with Baltimore and what he's got going on, present day, as well as what's going on in the land of the NFL right now. Josh, the start of the official legal tampering period today began. So
for those players who have agents, only for players who have agents.
Yes. There we go, Anthony. We good? There we go. There we go.
There we go.
We're good.
Now we're cooking.
Yeah, we're good.
So now, Anthony, what's going on, man? Ravens Nation is quite fond of you. You had some pretty good years here. One of the most memorable comebacks in Ravens history was led by none other than yourself. I know Josh has been talking about that all day.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Ravens games ever.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
That was against the Seattle Seahawks. And
it was Monday Night Football, too, wasn't it? Or was it Sunday night?
It was Sunday. It was Sunday.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was Sunday. It was
so
crazy.
How's everything been going, man?
Everything's going well, man. Just here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How's our life treating you? That's good.
Life treating me well, man. Can't complain, man. I'm happy. My kids are doing well. And my kids are doing well. That means I'm doing well.
Right.
Absolutely, man. I'm happy that everything's going good for you. It's nice to see that you're enjoying post football life. You're involved with your kids and their sports. It's always great to see you on social media training and staying active with the kids and all that.
Yes.
So, Josh, go ahead and fire away, man. I know that you were excited about talking to Anthony a little bit.
Thanks, man. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm good, man. How you doing, John?
Good. I just wanted to tell you a quick story about Anthony before I start asking you questions. There's a reason I got this football in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, you remember as well as I do, we were kids when Anthony was out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Training camp was a big deal when it was still at McDaniel. Some players were nice, some players weren't. We don't need to talk about the ones that weren't, but I'll never forget. It was me and Brian Burchett standing by the caboose watching practice, and there was a guy to my left. I didn't pay much mind to him, but the only thing I thought was, why does he have a hood up when it's summertime? But I ended up leaning down to tie my shoe, and me and Anthony Wright made contact, and I went, Anthony Wright. And he looked at me and started laughing, but he ended up talking to us for like 15 minutes. When we were done talking, he signed the ball. I still had the damn ball. I don't know how old I was. I had been 15.
Oh,
It's just something I never forgot, and I always kept the ball. I just wanted to tell you that.
thank you, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
that, man.
But you sat and talked to us, and I'll never forget. I don't remember the whole conversation word for word, but I remember the last thing you said was, I just want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So when you got one with New York, man, I was happy for you because I remembered you saying that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And the first question is, I want to go what Matt said. He kind of stole my thunder. That 41-20, it was 41-24 with 7 minutes left. I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't turn no Ravens games off. I'm a fan, win or lose, blown out, or we blow someone else out. But I did relax. I do a relax thing where I just take my hat off. I'm no longer, tense. I just accepted the loss. I'm thinking about the next week. And then you guys proceed to come back with 7 minutes left. I think it was the greatest comeback in Ravens history until Lamar with the Colts. Or maybe I'm wrong. Take us there. What did you see? What started clicking?
Man, I think that when we first came out, we were focused on running the ball, and so it was hand the ball off to Jamal to the right, hand it off to the left, and then obviously we got in a big hole, and then once we got in that hole, then we went in at halftime, and when I played in college, I played in a full wide shotgun, spread them out and let's throw the ball a little bit type of offense. So I was comfortable with throwing the ball. So, at halftime, I talked to Coach Billick and I was like, just give me the game, Coach. I got it. Just give me the game, Coach. I got it. Because, it was the Ravens, right? So the Ravens are built on defense. The Ravens were built on running the ball. They were built on, don't make the mistake. Do what you got to do, but let our defense win the game type of team. And so when we finally got into that big deficit, we had to throw the ball. And so I told Coach to give me the game, and he looked at me and told me okay. And so when we came out in that second half, I was in shotgun, and he let me do my thing. And I was able to revert back to what I was doing in college, and which was throwing the ball. And that's how we got back into the game. I mean, it was, I've always been a passer. I've always been a guy that like to throw the ball. But the way that I came into the league, I was fighting tooth and nail from the very beginning. So I had to do whatever they allowed me to do, right? And so, and just to keep my job and do what I'm supposed to do. So, but that particular game, we were forced to throw. They allowed me to do what I do, and I put up some big numbers that game. So I never forget that game for that. And then after that game, we won a run and made it to the playoffs, man. And
Tennessee.
Yep, we went and played Tennessee, and we lost in the fourth quarter. Had a big penalty that hurt us, but yeah, man, we were playing pretty well.
Yeah, you had 4 touchdowns, 319 passing yards. You went crazy.
Yes.
But my real question about that day, now this is if the internet's right, Anthony. It said that Brian Billick awarded your wife the game ball because she waited to have the baby until after the game. Is that true? And how'd you pull that off if it is?
Well, I wouldn't say she waited. I wouldn't go that far. I would say that it just so happened to be that way. But if that's true, he awarded her the game ball, and she ended up having the baby the next day, and so
Wow.
and she went into labor that night and had the baby the next day. So that's one of those moments that, like I said, I never forget because of everything that happened. And it's funny because every time I see Steve Bisciotti, he always reminds me of that game because he tells me that I think his mom got in an accident that day, and so he was in the hospital with her, and
Wow.
so that game was very memorable to him, because his mom got in an accident that day, car accident.
Wow. That game sticks in a lot of Ravens fans' minds. I know I got a lot of messages today when we advertised you, and a lot of
Yeah,
people with comments, messages like, tell them
yeah.
thank you for the Seahawks game. Like, man, that's stuck in Ravens history.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
So, so your family, if the internet's true, it says I didn't know you had two cousins made it to the NFL too.
I
Is
did,
it
man. I did.
uh Justin Hardy and Campbell?
Yeah, Jesse Campbell. So
That's it.
Jesse Campbell played at NC State, and he ended up playing for the Giants for about 5 or 6 years. Justin Hardy, he played at East Carolina, and he ended up playing for Atlanta for about 5 years. Um, he actually Justin broke the NCAA record for most receptions, and then
Wow.
the very next year, it was broken by I think his name is Zay, the other receiver at East Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so he broke it the very next year. But yeah, so we've been blessed. It's a small town. The town that I'm from, we probably have about 1,200 people, right? We got one
Wow.
stop.
Wow.
It's a small little town. And so to have elite athletes come out of places like that, when you look back on it now, is amazing. And it's appreciative because, you know, me being a trainer now and training all these kids, I get to see um, the type of advantages other kids had that we didn't have,
Yeah.
right? So these guys are getting trained by ex NFL athletes. They're getting trained by guys basically who study the art of training. They're basically scientists of sport of athletes. And so to come out of a small town like Vanceboro, which is where I'm from, and to make it to the NFL for as long as I did, that's a feat within itself.
That is a blessing. I wanted to ask you, Anthony. You spent 4 years of your career here. You spent the longest stretch anywhere of
Hmm.
anywhere here in Baltimore. Do you feel like there was any missed opportunities to acquire a Super Bowl while you were here as a Raven?
Oh yeah.
I think that I think this has kind of been Baltimore's recipe. Um, I think we were loaded defensively. I think offensively we had things here and there, but we always missed a couple pieces. Um, we when we did have somewhat of an elite receiver in Marcus, um, that was the game that he caught the 4 touchdowns against Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they end up letting him go because the next year they tried to get To.
Yep.
So they were trying to get To, and in the process of trying to get To, they end up losing Marcus for pennies. And so Marcus ended up going back to Minnesota. So, outside of having Todd Heap at receiver, and he was a tight end, they never really had a big play receiver, somebody that you can go to in crunch time and it's going
Still
to make.
haven't.
And still, right, right. They haven't had it since I've watched. They got Steve Smith, but he was at the end of his career,
Yeah.
and so they really haven't had a guy at receiver ever, right?
Nope.
That guy,
That
and
they've drafted at least.
that they've drafted, right? And so, and the biggest threat they have that a receiver that played that could receive the ball and put like that. When I was there was Todd Heap, right? He was a tight end, so. Outside of that, we didn't. They never really had that threat outside that could take over a game. And like I said, we did. Marcus. When I got in, I was playing with Marcus Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a great connection there. Like he was a big guy. Marcus was about 6'4", 6'5". Marcus probably ran a full 440. He could leap out the gym, and but like I said, they let him get away when they was trying to go get To. So I just don't. I just feel like it was the team was just based around defense at the time. And I said, then we had Jamal back there running the ball, so we was gonna run the ball with Jamal, play great defense. That's Baltimore. That's Baltimore football.
Sure is, still
It,
is.
it definitely is. I'm gonna ask you something. You you don't have to answer this. I know there's decorum amongst the NFL vets and all that.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel sitting behind Kyle Bowler, knowing damn right well he had no business being a starter in the NFL?
Good question.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. You know, when I came into the league, and Pittsburgh was the first team that drafted me.
Mm.
And after I saw, um, they had Cordell Stewart, they had Mike Tomczak, and they had Pete Gonzalez. And after I saw them throw the football, I was like, I'm gonna play in this league for a long time, right?
Mhm.
That's the truth. That's what I thought. And
Wow.
then I was able to see Troy Aikman throw because I ended up going to Dallas after that. I saw Troy Aikman throw, and then I was like, he's different. Like he threw the ball so accurately that I was like, he's different. Um, but through my uh, travels in the NFL, I learned the business of it. And so one of the things I respect about Baltimore is this. I remember we went into spring ball and we was having mini camps and stuff, and I was outperforming Chris and I was outperforming Kyle, right? So before we went into summer camp, there was a big article that was in the Baltimore Sun, and it had on the front page it was me, Chris, and it was Kyle,
Mhm.
and the article was saying it was a three-way battle, right? And so I remember Coach Billett. We had it before our first team meeting. Coach Billett told me to stay and wait after the meeting was over. So I said, okay, cool. So we had the meeting. We broke, and I stayed after. When I stayed after, Coach Billett pulled me to the side, and he was like, "Hey, if I had to name a starter today, you be our guy. He's like, you outperform everybody." He said, "But with the business being the way it is, you're not going to get a fair chance." And I just wanted to make sure you knew that before we get going because of the article that was in the paper. And then they didn't want me to get upset or, because the reps weren't going to be distributed evenly. And I was going to take note to it, right? So they didn't want me to get frustrated with that. And so he was like, we love you, we like everything about you, we want to do a long term deal with you. He said, but we just want to let you know that you're not going to get a fair chance.
That
And so
that's disheartening, man.
yeah, it can
Right.
be, it can be. But see, I had been in the business for at that point. I had been in the business for 3-4 years, and so I saw kind of how things. I actually respected that more because when I was in Dallas and I was with Jerry, I saw some, I went through some really really disheartening things with Jerry, right? So, but going through what I went through with Jerry, and then going to Baltimore, and then at least having them tell me that it was disheartening, but at the same time, it was better than no one talking to me and telling me anything. And I'm just not like if Kyle was getting 5 reps, uh, and then Chris was getting 5 reps, and then I'm getting like 1 rep. But no coaches are talking to me and telling me what's going on, telling me where I stand. And it's still tough, but at the same time, I respect the fact that they talk to me about it.
I mean, I can respect that the fact that I mean it seems like by all accounts Billick was always that straightforward with his players and the
Yeah,
team in general.
yeah,
But not just because you're sitting in front of us and talking to us. I mean, we suffered as fans through that era because Josh and I talk about it on the show a lot. We talk about it, when we're hanging out and when we're in group chats. Um, it seems like the organization wasted the prime years of Ray and Ed by backing a first round bust quarterback and knowing that they had guys like you waiting in the wings, and then a couple years after you leave, they go out and get Steve McNair to eventually dethrone Bowler, and it's like by that time, Jo was on his last legs. He was breaking down the turf toe and the injuries, and then
Heap was breaking down.
I'm convinced that Bowler consistently overthrowing Heap and leaving him hang out to dry ended a Hall of Fame style career. That's
Yes.
me. That's me.
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick by that to the day I die.
Mhm.
It just seems like if they would have just made a little bit of a different decision and gave you an honest chance, we would have had a better shot. I mean, a lot of us knew that. We were young, Anthony. When you were our quarterback, we were in high school. You know,
Wow.
we're
Wow.
we're mid-30s with kids now, and
Wow.
we were we were in high school when you were our quarterback,
Wow.
and seeing you do lead the Seattle game, that gave us hope. And then it's like the minute Bowler's ready to go, it's like they don't even give you a chance to
Compete.
compete, and it's like they just put you right back on the bench, even in the middle of a hot streak. And it's disheartening because me and Josh talk about it. The Ravens should have 5 Super Bowls right now, at
Yeah.
least, and it's frustrating that we don't. We have 2, and now we're going on another decade of no Super Bowl appearances, and
Not even been close.
not even we haven't even sniffed it. And
Yeah.
you know, Jamal, I believe, broke the rushing record in 2003.
Yep.
Mhm.
You
That
know,
was the same year. Yep.
he ran for I think 2,006 yards that year.
Yep.
2006 we had one of the top defenses. 2004 we had a good squad.
Yep.
It just seems like, I know you alluded to the business side of it, Anthony, and you eventually did move on to the New York Giants and
Yes.
had a chance to play in the Super Bowl. I believe
Yeah.
you played in the Super Bowl. You were on the Super Bowl team where
Helmet catch.
the helmet catch with David Tyree. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I know it's got to be a little bit of a difficult transition. Picking up your family, moving city to city.
Yeah.
You alluded to something earlier. I wanted to ask you, what was the biggest difference between playing for Jerry Jones and playing for Steve Bisciotti?
I think it goes back to what I said as far as like being more direct, more straight up. I think in Dallas he treated you more like an asset, and in Baltimore they treated you like a person. And so even though I felt like if I was been given a chance that I could have actually led the team better. As a matter of fact, I'll say this. The reason I starting. So when I started starting in 2003, when I took us to the playoffs, I never came back out. So I stayed in for the duration and led us to the playoffs, and I started against Tennessee in the playoffs. So I never came back out that season. I think I might have went 6-2 or something like that.
You did.
I believe you did.
Yeah,
You
so I
did.
think I went 6-2. But the thing about that is the defensive guys went upstairs for me, and they're the ones that asked the front office to start me. Because I think when Cal got hurt. I think he got hurt. We was playing St. Louis, and then Chris went in. And when Chris went in against St. Louis, he didn't perform well. And the defensive guys, based on my performance against them, doing all those scout team stuff, they went upstairs for me and pleaded with them to let me start. That's how I started starting that year. But
Wow.
That's incredible.
It
yeah,
is.
that's because I was actually third string at that point, and so they had Kyle, Chris, and myself. And so, but to get back to your question, Baltimore is. I have way more respect because of the way that they treated me as a player and as a person. And they're a first class organization, with the things that, when Steve came in, he built a new facility and got us out of the old one. So we have first class of everything inside the facility. And I think that was, you know, that was that was big to be a part of for the last couple of years of my time there, especially when I was in the old one. But yeah, just I think the way they treated us as players it was different between Steve Bisciotti and Jerry Jones.
That's honestly refreshing to hear because players talk about playing for coaches, but oftentimes, unless it's a very popular owner, um, you don't really hear about players mentioning playing for them because at the end of the day, that's the person signing your paycheck.
Yeah.
I want to kind of transition into present day. I know that you're still tuned into the game. You're training, the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Being as though you were here for 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever seen the behind the scenes drama and uh, dirty laundry being aired out with the organization the way that it has been the last couple of weeks? Is this uncharted territory as a former Raven?
Yes. Yes. Um,
Good
you
to hear.
know, yeah, money changes a lot of things, man. And so this is definitely something new. I never, would have expected it, but gotten like this in Baltimore. But I mean, I understand that money changes things in situations. Um, and I really think that everybody should fight for their worth. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. It's the business of it, right? And the people with the money don't want to pay, right? And the people that deserve the money want to get the pay. So there's a conflict of interest, and I just hope that things work out for the best for everybody.
I do too, and being as though that we've been Josh and I have been Ravens fans since they got here in '96, and it usually seemed like under Ozzy that things really didn't get out a whole lot, and maybe it was just because social media wasn't as advanced as it is now. Do you think it's purely social media, or do you think it's the new generation of players that are in tune to social media and are trying to make their voice be heard?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Um, I think it's social media. I think both sides use social media to their advantage, right? I think they should use social media to their advantage because that's what it's there for.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it has to be, like I said, level of decorum there for both sides. Um, like I said, everybody's going to fight for what they feel like their worth is, and that fight can enter uncharted territory if it ain't monitored. And so, it's hard to talk on other people's money. It's hard to talk about other people's situations.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I was just talking more along the lines also of the aspect of talking about the strength and conditioning, talking about you know um, the grievances with the offensive coordinator. Because back
Mm.
when you were playing, you heard the fans complain about the offensive coordinator or the head coach or whoever
We're
it might
never
be.
happy with the offensive coordinator.
I'm
But
thinking at any level, I think.
Yeah. Everybody thinks
well,
they can do it better.
Right.
but seeing players go to the social media aspect, like you said, it can be beneficial in ways, but it just seems like normally we're more buttoned up than that, and I just I don't want to be on the side of the fence where I think that they're losing control of the locker room.
Yeah.
But it just seems like a lot of these guys are more outspoken. Um, it's
You know
just
what? I really feel like when people start talking too much, you get yourself in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so the least you can say, the better, right? And so let your performance show it on the field, and anything else, you can do that behind closed doors. Any contractual talks, any talks about the coaches, any talks about the strength and conditioning, anything like that, you do that behind closed door because the more you talk, the more you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
So um, but everybody, I think people are addicted to social media, right? I think they are addicted to because it's like their personal news channel, right? They get on social media and say whatever they want to say, uncensored or whatever, and how they feel. And so I think that you got to be careful with that, right? But you get yourself in trouble.
Right.
But at the same time, I mean, that's what I say. It got to be monitored. Like you need like a team. That's one of the things I will say this, man. That's one of the things I kind of like about what Dion got going on in Colorado is that, he has his son doing the social media stuff, and so they got a team, right? They have a team that's working together, that's putting out social media, putting out videos, putting out this stuff on the regular, but it has to make sense, right? It has to make sense. You got a team. You got some people that's working as a team together that's saying, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to follow you doing this, we need to follow you doing that. And so I think it needs to be monitored if we do it. But we start talking about individual people, players getting on Instagram, getting on and saying, doing all this stuff, you set yourself up for trouble.
Do you believe that it also has a part to play in it where the Ravens don't have a Ray Lewis or a Terrell Suggs or a Ed Reed type figure in the locker room to where they could squash that and nip that in the bud? Because I can only imagine what would have happened if a player would have went to the media or released his own injury report, such as our quarterback did, back in January. I know that it has to do with the generation of players, absolutely, to a certain extent. But do you think it's the lack of that type of presence in the locker room that could have stopped some of this miscalculation when it comes to oversharing?
It's hard to say really because you're dealing with individuals and you're dealing with people, right? And so, you know, when you start talking about leaders of the team, like a Ed or like a Ray, it's a hard mix, right? So it's a hard mix because when it comes to people's personal lives, sometimes they may not want to necessarily listen to what some other people may have to say about that, So it's a very sketchy and it's a very hard mix to try to figure out. When you start talking about people doing their own social media stuff, but at the same time, you know, having a guy like Ray or Ed in the locker room, it definitely does not hurt. I put it like that.
I respect it, because I think I asked that question because I had I got that question from a couple of our listeners earlier. I know that
Yeah,
like you said, everybody's an individual, and at the NFL level, at the pro level, you've got to really
respect that.
have respect that they're men at the end of the day, first and foremost, and that they're not kids in college that you can control and put a thumb on. So,
Absolutely.
um, Josh, I know that you had something that you wanted to ask Anthony that is dealing with today's Ravens.
Yeah. Anthony, last
Mm-hmm.
question I have anyway.
Mm-hmm.
If you were in Lamar Jackson's shoes last year, no extension, would you have risked it and played like he did?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. I'll tell you
It's
a funny
refreshing,
story.
refreshing honesty.
I'm gonna tell you a
Yeah.
funny story. I'm gonna tell you a funny story. And I got this from now. This is I'm giving y'all a personal story now. This is coming from Grant Hill's dad. So Calvin Hill. I was with Calvin Hill in Dallas. So Calvin said that he was messing around with Grant one day, and he said, they were kind of going back and forth, and so he said that he went he went in the back and he got all his Super Bowl rings and he laid them on the table, right, for Grant to look at. So he said Grant goes in the back and get one of his old check stubs and puts it on the table, right? And Calvin looked at me and said, Anthony, you know what? At the end of the day, that's all that really matters. That being said, Lamar has worked his butt off. What's going on with the Ravens tells me that they don't love him. They don't love him. They might like him, but they don't love him.
That's interesting you say that.
Yeah, they like him, but they don't love him. And so, but you can't look in the NFL and see a whole bunch of other guys that are better than he is. Right? He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's what he's saying. Look at my accomplishments. Whether you like me or whether you love me, look at what I've done. Look at my, I won MVP this year. I led the league in this. I led the league in that. Whatever. I'm 90% of the offense. Whatever it is he's showing. Whatever the stats he's showing. He's saying, look at my statistics. And my statistics say that I'm owed this, because contracts are simple. Contracts are based on other contracts, right? So that's how they do contracts. They look at what this guy has done and what he's making. They compare it. They do a comparative analysis, and that's how they do contracts, right? And so that's what he's saying. He's saying my body of work says this. I know how contracts work based on my production versus this guy's production. He's getting paid this. I should get paid that. And it's just not working out right now. For some reason, Baltimore, like I said, they like him, but they don't love him.
Honestly, you're the first quarterback that we've ever had a chance to talk to on air, and to hear a quarterback's perspective from it. Now, regardless of the era you played in or the magnitude of the contracts that you've negotiated or your agents negotiated, it does seem like that there is a disconnect between Lamar and the organization. And that's obvious, but it seems like and I hate to be accusatory, and this has nothing to do with Lamar. I believe that the NFL owners got together and they pretty much aren't even trying to cover up anymore with the quarterback contracts that are being given out between last year and this year, that they're trying to steer away from the Deshaun Watson situation, because including Jimmy Garoppolo today, since Deshaun Watson signed his deal, there's been 7 quarterbacks that have gotten paid. And from descending order, Aaron Rodgers got 50 a year, Russ got 48 a year, Kyler Murray got around 46, and then when you get down to guys like Geno Smith and Derek Carr and Daniel Jones, they're around 40, and then Jimmy Garoppolo is around the high 30s. It seems like the owners are pretty much trying to reestablish the quarterback market. Do you believe that do you believe, as a former professional, that there is some type of collusion going on, to where it's now, because Lamar's such a high-profile player, that it seems to be a Lamar issue, but it could potentially be a league-wide issue amongst all the owners?
It's very possible, yes. Yes. You got to remember, they all work together. It's a fraternity, right? It's a fraternity. And so they talk to each other. They discuss situations. They discuss, what's best for the league coming up, going forward, what's best for them going forward. And so it's definitely something they talk about, I think, again, would you take Russell Wilson over Lamar?
No,
right. Absolutely not.
Right. Honestly, at this point, out of all the quarterbacks you named, maybe with the exception of Aaron Rodgers, just based on pedigree and the fact that he's been he was back-to-back MVPs just a couple years ago. I think he won the last 3 after Lamar before Mahomes. And it's crazy that it's happening before our very eyes, and a lot of people that we talk to, because they're Ravens fans, they think that it's Bisciotti doing it to Lamar or Eric DeCosta doing it to Lamar, when in fact it's now a trend where the last dozen quarterbacks have gotten well below what Deshaun Watson got, and none of them are coming with full guarantees, and we really don't know what the sticking point is, because Lamar doesn't have an agent, so there's not an agent feeding anybody in the media tidbits. We're getting leaks from the Ravens side. It's obvious. There's a lot of moving factors to signing a contract of that magnitude, but I firmly believe that Lamar is caught in the crossfire of it's his turn now to get paid, not necessarily making it personal. But like you said, you alluded to a couple minutes ago, they like him. They might like him, but they might not love him. And it speaks volumes to me. I know it's a different position, Anthony, but we traded for Roquan Smith in I believe week 7 or week 8 of this year. Correct, Josh?
Week 7, yeah.
Week 7. Roquan was here for like 5 games, and he signed $100 million extension. I firmly believe that the Ravens just pay who they want to pay, and they'll make it work one way or another. We saw it with Joe Flacco. We saw it with Ray Rice. We saw it with Mark Andrews. We saw it with Jimmy Smith over the years of Lardarius Webb. They pay who they want to pay, and it just seems like when there's guys that they want to keep at their price, they play hardball, and this could end up blowing up in their face in spectacular fashion.
Well, I'll tell you this, man. From a player standpoint, it hurts, right? Lamar Jackson is hurt because each Sunday, or even throughout the week, you go out there and you play hard and you work for your organization. You put the organization on your back, and you want to be a cornerstone for the organization. I think that would happen for anybody. If you worked at freaking Walmart or whatever, you're busting your behind Walmart, and then they do something that's disrespectful, it's gonna hurt you, right? So he puts that Ravens helmet on every Sunday. He goes out and he plays his butt off. He plays hard. If he wasn't playing hard, like if he was playing like, and this is no knock on Garoppolo, but like to see Garoppolo get paid the kind of money he's getting paid, and then like Lamar is like 85% of Baltimore's offense, and so he lays up on the line every Sunday. He can get hurt at any time the way he plays.
Yeah.
And so to know that I lay it on the line for you every Sunday, to know I'm playing this physical sport in which I'm throwing the ball, I'm running the ball, I'm doing all this thing, I can get hurt at any time. And to for you not to show me love for what I've done for you, it hurts. Even though we know it's business, but it hurts. And so he's definitely, if I was him, I would be hurt. I put it like that. And so it's hard to see him go through it, especially like you said with an organization like Baltimore, but that I hold in such high regard because they are a great organization. But for some reason, whatever it may be, they're just not on the same page with Lamar.
It is unfortunate. The NFL legal tampering period opened up at noon today, and there's been a flurry of moves. You do begin to wonder, though, what's going to happen. And it's kind of worrisome knowing that Lamar lost a key piece of his offensive line. Ben Powers went to the Denver Broncos today.
We knew that was coming, though. I mean, Eric Albert said that at the press conference.
Yeah,
There's too much money in the line already.
He did. It's going to be interesting to see what team jumps out there to offer Lamar a contract. And at the end of the day, like Josh and I have said it, as much as we want Lamar to stay, we don't believe it's going to be the case. If you had to make a prediction, where do you see Lamar playing football 2023 and beyond?
It really depends on the draft. Carolina got the first pick now. Are they going to take C.J. Stroud? Are they going to take Bryce Young? So then you got to see where those two guys go. There's been a lot of talk with Anthony Richardson. I don't know what's going on with that, but there's been a lot of talk with the kid, Will Levis or whatever. I don't know, man. You really got to see what happens with the draft. I know there was talk about him in Miami, but I just think Miami just re-up with Tua, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they traded for
Jalen Ramsey.
So that's out the door.
Again.
The Raiders did the Raiders sign anybody?
The Raiders signed Jimmy Garoppolo.
They just paid Jimmy Garoppolo.
And Derek Carr went to the New Orleans Saints. So, like, right now, all the suspected teams have inked, quarterbacks to contracts. And Atlanta spent a ton of money today. They brought in Jesse Bates. They gave their left guard Chris Lindstrom $105 million over 5 years,
Ooh,
and
gee.
yeah, so for a left guard,
The money is crazy right now, man.
for a left
I
guard.
can't even fathom that much money, Anthony.
Oh, wait.
I
Oh,
can't
man.
even fathom it.
So who's looking at Lamar?
I
No one
mean,
that don't care.
we've been hearing, from the talking heads on local radio that the Commanders could be a team or Detroit could be a team. So
Ah.
it really just those aren't really ideal places that you would want to see Lamar go. I think the
No.
best shot for him to win would be here because
Yes.
we have a team tailor made for him.
Yes.
Because you don't have to, if you trade for Lamar, you got to find pieces that fit his style of
And
play. You
Lamar
can't
knows that. I know it's a
right.
business, but I don't think he wants to leave. I do think I definitely agree with Anthony. I think his feelings are hurt. I think his Facebook and Instagram posts have shown his feelings are hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If you kind of can read between the lines what he's trying to say, well, I think he's trying to say anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he wants to stay. I really do. I hope it works out in the end. We're not used to this, man. We've never heard bad things about the Ravens. You're always taught they're a standout organization,
But listen to this though.
and
But listen to this. Listen to
it's
what we're saying,
crazy.
right? It's
Hmm.
it's the offensive side. We've never had issues
That's
because
true.
this is the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Baltimore is known for defense and running the ball. So they pay defensive guys. Now
Yeah.
you got a guy on the offensive side of the ball that's commanding Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Terrell Suggs, commanding that kind of money or more.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't really know.
You're right.
I don't
You're
really
right.
know yet. I don't really know. We might. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Anthony, I want to thank you for joining the show, man. Before we let you go, I know that you said that you are currently training. What type of training are you doing with the young athletes in North Carolina?
Oh, well, I just do a little bit of quarterback training. My son is a sophomore at Charlotte Country Day here in Charlotte, and he's doing really well. So I train some quarterbacks here in Charlotte. My passion is to give those guys the knowledge that I wish I had known when I was in high school. To give them the training that I wish I would have had when I was in high school. Like I told you earlier, I'm from a small town of about 1,200 people, and I wasn't trained to play the position. All right, so I just was naturally gifted to be able to play. But when I went to college, I didn't know what any of the coverages were. I didn't know what any of the defensive fronts were. I didn't know much about the game of football, to be honest with you. And so it's my passion to make sure that I give the young kids here a better chance of that to play at a D1 ball or just know the game of football when they play. So that's kind of what I do now.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's incredible, man. Have you gotten the itch to get on the sideline and throw a headset on?
Right now, I'm kind of just dedicated on my son. I want to make sure that I kind of watch him grow because I understand that when you get into the coaching gig, it's it's a 24/7 gig. You know what I mean? It's a lot of hours, and so right now I want to make sure I dedicate my time to like today. We went and worked out, and then he had to go see the eye doctor, and then I had to take him to get a massage. And you look up, next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock, right? And
I
so
got you, man.
I spend most of my time with them.
Awesome.
I respect it, man. From the videos that you post, those hype videos are cool, man. He's got
Thank you,
your son's got an arm on him.
thank you,
You
man.
know, apple doesn't fall far when it
Yeah, well,
comes to.
I'm teaching him things that I would, like I said, like he'll be further along than I was. So he's gonna know the coverages and know what he's looking at. He has
Well,
poise, so
that's going to help.
yes,
You're giving him an advantage to where when colleges come knocking, he's going to have some refined training, and I know that you're not going to, over exert him, but it seems like you do take the craft seriously, and we're hoping your son has a good season this year. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on the
So
show.
thank you, man.
Thank you, guys, man. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you, man. I
This has
enjoyed it.
it's been a great conversation. Let everybody know where they can follow you on social media to keep up with the day-to-day life of a retired quarterback.
All right. Yeah, my Instagram is BIGWRIGHT2, the number 2. So it's Big Wright 2. That's my IG. And then my TikTok is BIGTONE026. And I guess my Facebook is just Anthony Wright. I guess you just look up Anthony Wright, my Facebook will come up. So
You on Twitter still?
and my Twitter, yeah, I just really just got on Twitter, to be honest with you. I don't even know what that one is though. I just started using it probably about a month and a half ago.
Uh-oh.
I tagged
Right,
you on
right.
there. I tagged you on there, sir. All your followers are watching us live.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, thank you.
That'll do it for the show. We have a little bit of more, content to put out later on. We will be back later this week with a former Terp, Sean Mosley, for a NCAA March Madness preview show, and that'll do it. Josh, go ahead and sign us off, my man.
Once again, thank you, Anthony, and Ravens fans. I keep saying the Lamar stuff's going to be over soon, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's probably never going to be over.
Hopefully it will. I think it'll be over before we know it.
I hope so too, man. I hope you're right, Anthony.
He'll be here. He'll be a Raven for life, I think. Hopefully.
I hope so.